for illumined life to be birthed into form. I am the truth. I am the light. Illumined, beloved divine. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to another very important video update, an urgent update with me here today. I know I've shared that I won't be present here on YouTube for a while, that I will be MIA for a while, but I guess it's not my time to retreat yet. I was hoping for it, but Spirit always has other plans. So there I am. Here I am once again. And I want to talk about something that came through very specific today, as well as in the other half of the video, I will be discussing karmic versus illumined energies and how the darkness is trying to intervene and come into through our lives to plug us into the matrix, and how we are now needing to be more and more diligent to plug ourselves out. There's so many ways, so many means how this energy is coming through, so I will update you about everything. What happened today was actually the whole weekend we had a very unstable energy. I was very sleepy, dozing off, almost feeling a little, how do you say, tipsy. Like there's a fog, like there's a wool, and you're just like wanting to go into a cocoon. It was a very weird energy, and I'm not, to be honest, very used to these kind of like putting you into sleep energies, and I always know something's happening energetically. And we just had a storm, today. And all of a sudden we went indoors, and I said, let's meditate by just holding space, because for a while now we were trying to meditate and it just didn't work, because it was almost like the energy was so sleepy that it kind of put us into this weird trance like state. So there we were just sitting, and sometimes or often that happens with my family of light, that it would put messages into my field, and as I'm in this receptive mode, I would then be able to receive them. So this is what happened. The moment I just took a few deep breaths, I got a message instantly, and this is when I know they're messaging me, because I don't usually have thoughts like that in my head. I think about daily things, 3D things, things I need to take care of, and so on and so forth. So the message was very straightforward. It came right away, and the message said, the split has begun. Well, the sentence actually began with, there is an unprecedentable event happening. The split has begun. That was the main message. I look at my mom and I said, will you please confirm this? Because, I'm still sometimes in the state of distrust, and I don't know how this is real, and let's make it happen. Let's clarify. And so she went into the channeling mode, and she said, yes, they told her it's actually a belated situation. It's the truth, but it's happening as a delay. And we've all been feeling so much delay in our lives. You've probably been feeling it. And the earth has been in itself as a planet that's been hijacked, that its terrestrial consciousness no longer was able to be organic. So we have all this artificial intelligence and the plugging into the more and more artificial grid system. So it was like, the regressive types trying to put a more and more regressive type of consciousness, and the upgrades of the artificial intelligence. So just like the organics are doing their own upgrades, the dark ones are doing their own upgrades as well, right? So we received a message that this was, like supposed to happen before. And I told you that in 2019, I was supposed to enter my union and have a beloved reunion as well. But then the transgression happened. So this was a very important year. I remember specifically sharing that video about the seed of Illumined Union being planted. So it was just about time for it to burst, but it didn't happen. So I will explain what they've talked to me about today. So because there's a delay, this means that as a team of light, as those beings who are light beings working with the planetary life force, the galactic life force, and basically universal life force. So they told me this is actually a cosmic event. There's a cosmic resurgence of something there was almost like a thick layer of a density put around, so we couldn't work through it. So we had to use these, let's say, 2 years to work around this transgression, not just in our bodies, but I was doing in the body the work. My team was doing it in the what we call the other planes and the collective planes, right? The collective fields of energy, and how they're being played out and what's being planned and played out. So as you know, I've explained how the splitting actually means the splitting off of old energies and a reunion with the new energies that we've already built as a template. Each soul has pre-chosen, it's a predetermined pathway of each soul that has already chosen this path. So there's a narrative that each soul has participated in its own contract, basically in agreement with source, the source of all life, right? So no wonder that what the darkness is doing is trying to plug us out of that source. And we're going to talk about in the second part of the video how they do that and what karmic energies and distorted fallen energies actually mean and how they're physically playing out in our life, because that's where we all fail to see them. It's like we're all good in theory. We're like, yeah, I know this, you know, and let me tell you again about the fool, the ignorant fool that thinks they think they're immune to what's happening. No one is immune. And if you think that's not in concern in any regard to you in your life, you're actually really being ignorant, because this concerns all of us. Let me tell you, as a light being, I'm so advanced in terms of what I know and what I can do, but I'm here half-half. I'm half human, so I have my own vulnerabilities as well. But I'm very advanced as a being, and still I sometimes fall for these tricks, and still I have to uncover them in the physical human form. Now you can imagine how that goes for many, many other souls who are following and choosing to ascend and move into this collective event of union, cosmic union, for the first time. It's like rejoining the family of light that they already were a part of, that they always have been a part of as one. So we're going to talk about how the darkness does that. But today I want to share what the splitting actually means, right? The splitting means that we're basically needing to split away from everything that we still render as karmic. Very dense, anything that in a way hooks us into the matrix and its gridded design that's of course constantly being upgraded, right? Like the Starlink and all these technologies, they're not meant to serve you as a human, and you already know that. They're meant to serve their types of consciousness, which is regressive. It's not progressive and evolving with the evolution of light. We all know that, right? Those of you who are here somehow persisting, you know what I'm actually talking about. So the splitting is the setup or preset or pre-calculated event that was meant to happen in a specific way. But the darkness kind of opposed it, so we had transgression. The transgression was multi-layered. So for me, I experienced the most advanced progenitor-like energies that worked with me through my body, hijacking it, like taking it as their own, you know, doing with it through their own will. And in a way, they abominated the will of God. So they sinned against God. And this is why these repercussions had to take place, but much later. So in a way, this transgression had to be calculated into the equation that the light beings know is the fastest, most progressive way that through which this evolution of life force and the consciousness of humanity that's ascending. We have the ascending and actually also descending, or sorry, it's not the same, but regressive humanity. Because a lot of people don't know that, but you can also choose to become more and more regressive type of energy yourself, because the split that's now happening and these beings you're now rendering as, you know, calling them ETs, they're actually future selves of those humans that are actually choosing to regress at this specific time, which will make them more and more resentful, cynical, hateful, spiteful against life, right? So anyway, the story is very complex and long, and in these videos, I don't want to go too long. We're going to go deeper, of course, through my Patreon videos, but as you know, I'm taking a break, so I did more YouTube videos for now. But we have to stop for a while with that as well, so I can replenish, but this felt like a really important message. So when that is said, like the split has begun, it means it's just the initiative event. It's like something that starts off the energy, but it's something that's supposed to happen already. In the first calculation, light beings, we need to recalculate and recalibrate many times, because we're not alone in this universe, because the darkness also has its own agendas, and those regressive types are constantly working as, you know, opposition. But I feel like what this message had in store within itself was that the message in itself said that we've managed to gather enough light quotient of luminosity for finally putting it in and anchoring it as this final outcome, that now the preset calculation of the previous, what we say the previous self, is now our now. This is already supposed to take place. You know, like when we say on earth, many things happen in a belated sense, like every manifestation is like so far reaching into the future. Like, for example, you know, it took some years for me to move to that alpine space that was my previous home. And I once said in this river stream that was that place, and I said, I want to live there. And I pinpointed at that direction, and I did live there a few years later. not so many years later, but it was like 2 years or something. Then when I was in that place, I kept on dreaming for myself, dreaming of this like a mountainous home, like this cute cottage house, something, you know, like a weekend house. I wanted to have and live in that kind of house, which for me took so many years to actually manifest, which is now. But where I'm here now no longer feels like a home for me in this now. It's like a belated manifestation, because this is where the bodies are at this point, but our consciousness has already progressed to the next level. So a few years back, I actually started dreaming up a new reality, which was a more real reality than that cottage house and the weekend house was. I'm sorry about the light, guys. It's the sun just started shining. It's behind me, so it's very bright right now where I am. Oh, it shifted instantly. That's really weird. So it goes from one extreme to the other. Well, I'm in the shade now, so I don't know what's better. Either way, it means that we're getting to that next step, but it's like there's a pre-dreaming or a pre-cognitive process that we receive a while before this manifestation of the past already occurs. So for me, it feels difficult as a light being to know that this is not really my ultimate home, which I already started dreaming up a few years back, and it's by the sea. It's not really here. It's not in the Alps anymore. But it's still challenging because my body is here now, and this is my manifestation in this now moment. But it's like, because it came in such a belated way, it feels like it's no longer my manifestation. So in a way, that's how they explain this to me at this point. It's belated, but it's happening either way. So this first splitting means that it's not an event as in the New Age they're saying it will be, or it is. It's actually an event that's set in motion, but it's a prolonging of the unwinding of the new spiral, this new cycle of life that will last a while. A few years back, my mother actually painted or drew this mandala that's called the splitting of worlds. And you actually have the splitting itself creates a new reality, right? So for us, this makes perfect sense, because that's how truly and naturally in the Trinity of life the source creates. You have to have the division of something that was really kept as a unit, right? There's a one unit. We had this reality as the status quo. But when you have enough light quotient that wants to burst through into a new cycle of creation, division happens. So we have the Vesica Pisces formation, and this is when a new dream of source is being conjured up into this reality. And this is where we're now. So this, in order for that to become a physical manifest reality, has to become a trinity. This is the process we're being moved into now. So we have the splitting first, which is the Vesica Pisces formation. This doesn't just go for our nature of soul and the splitting of souls and that, you know, like what we call the twin soul. But this is in general the creation principle of life. So they said the split has officially now begun, which is a very good positive news, but it's still an event that's not event that's linear, and it's a momentary one event, but it's like a prolonging, it's like an investment of light that will continue. It's a continuation of light, but finally we had that first seed from which now our sprout is growing from. It's no longer growing from the previous creation manifestation. So if you find yourself in this in-between space, this transitory or transitional space, know that it is just temporary. We don't know exactly how this split would play off or play out. But I also want to share something very important, because a lot of people don't know that this is the truth, right? So what we have now is, when we talk about the karmic energy, it's not just karmic people. When we say, well, there's individuals, right, who have, let's say, karmic relationships. But it's not just karmic relationships as this is a karmic person. You know, this is how we're shown by spirit. Until you are an illumined being, every one of us will be a karmic for someone when we talk about the human karmic relationships. But in general, a karmic energy is a collective expression, right, in this matrix recycling of souls. That's like a belief in this predetermined, predestined way of living and choice and relationships you're meant to have and the people you're supposed to meet, which gives you an idea that everything is preset and predetermined, that you have no choice through divine will, choosing and becoming and blending with your own free will, creating a triangulation, and you choosing through your own freedom as a divine integral sovereign. What this means is that a lot of souls have been playing out this reality, believing that they're the ones choosing, but it's actually lineages and lineages of ancestral pathway before them that have already made that predetermined choice for them. So these relationships that souls are living, that are very they're feeling like they're entrapping them. They can't grow. There's no growth. There's no continuation. There's no progress. There's no movement. That's called the karmic energy, right? So a karmic energy, in a way, it has to be broken free of or from, because that's ultimately what sets you free. And there's several of these. There's not just like one karmic relationships or one that you call that's my karmic and that's my soulmate and that's the twin flame, they say nowadays, right? There's these terms or terminologies that kind of decipher things and put them in these boxes, but it's more complex than that, actually, right? So karmic is a set of energies, and it's always the energy that makes you believe you're not a creator being. You're not choosing or creating for yourself. It's like you're destined to meet this person, and since you met them and there's no other choice, you create this partnership with them and around them and, you know, this and that. But a lot of souls don't know how deeply, deeply entrenched they are, like rooted in these old karmic cycles that are basically repetitive cycles that keep us spinning. So until you enlighten yourself and become Christ being, which is Christ-born being, meaning an illumined being, you will always be a karmic for someone as well. Maybe there's different tendencies and not as contrasting as some that are very, very dark, because there's different spectrum of the way karmic plays itself out as an energy expression, right? The more polarities, charges, duality, the more intense this karmic energy is. And some are really polarized, which means these relationships, if it's coming through as a relationship, will be very, like someone will be very dominant or domineering, the other one will be more passive, or one will be very outwardly aggressive, the other would be passively aggressive, right? So there's these very contrasting forces, which people sometimes say, well, they're twin flames because they're so intense in energy. No, you know, there's a confusion, and it's not just one or three different set that we say, well, this is in the equation of life. You have karmic, you have soulmate, you have twin flame. That's it. That's the ultimate game over. No, 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 my beloveds, it's not like that at all. When you know creation and when you start awakening up to spirit, you will see that it's all so much complex, like so much more. So karmic is like the lowest energy, which keeps you entrapped. And it's basically choices that, let's say, they've been made predeterminedly by not always beings, like you would say, my being, my soul chose that. Because, you know, in the astral planes, you have this false school that basically when souls come and they're recycled into that lower astral planes, they believe it's heaven because they can be so good at mimicking what we call heaven, but it's not. It's the astral heaven, actually. So in there you have these masters that will tell you need to do this, and this is the path for you, and this is what you choose, and it's basically a predetermined path. When you read these books with these regression stories, to go into these regressive states and they channel this for themselves, it's always very similar, right? You have to go through this, you have to pay off your karmic debt and this and that. Well, yes, because they've chosen that and they keep on spinning. And until this karmic cycle is complete on all levels, then you actually start seeing reality in a totally new way. And that's when you actually ultimately begin to merge with members of your light family. Because before, when you're in karmic energies, you cannot. And that's what most people, sorry about the darkness, most people don't even know that. They truly do not. They think this is just how it is, period. But karmic energies play out in different ways as well. There's situations, there's jobs, and we're going to talk about that, how that influences the masculine and feminine principles through us as individuals who are, you know, on our path to ascension. So this splitting literally means that any type of karmic energy needs to be broken free of or from. But when you're an illumined being, you're no longer a karmic for someone. Illumined beings were always someone's guide. You might say a guardian angel in human form, a guide, a guiding light, a guiding energy. So there's many false beliefs about these karmic energies that dark actually puts into this whole matrix field that we then need to break free from. And I had many, many of these patterns because I'm very much a being of light and love, an illumined being, but I still tend to, through my growth, right, I was tending to pick up these lower patterns, like distorted versions of the original design. So an illumined light being or a guiding light, a spirit guide in human form incarnate, they would choose to, they come directly through their prism of light. But when you incarnate through the earth's prism, right, prison, you pick up these distortions because they're simply part of this field. It's a field around the terrestrial planes of Earth, and there's different rules and regulations that are written there. We call them inception points. And until you uncover them, you're not going to be a free, sovereign, integral. That's just that. It's how it is. So for me in my life as an evolutionary tantrika being, I had to uncover one by one. And basically through this transgression story and unfolding, the darkness actually served me, because we were digging much deeper into the dark than we would if I would just be like this, lying with my feet up and comfortably numb and not paying attention. So recently, even Source told us, God said, you know, nothing is a mistake, not even this house, no matter how difficult our situation is right now. He said, you're choosing to grow, and you've chosen that mastering of yourselves. If you had a house that's already perfect, you'd be like this, just enjoying, and you wouldn't channel the kind of information and things that come through you when you're in this constantly hypervigilant state instead of, just passive, non-responsive to life. Like most people live, they just live for their own life and their own needs and desires being fulfilled. When you are 24/7 on a mission, your job, your life looks totally different, okay? So these karmic energies, right? You need to understand they have been so well calculated. And for me, my part of the karmic learning has been dissolving these patterns, like distortions of the original design of life. As you know, Source is pure unity, and in unity there is no sense of being a chosen one in terms of being a savior, because that's actually a God complex. It's not being a divine being, an extension of God, a being of light and love, an illumined being ultimately. But it's this almost like egoic conviction that we can build around ourselves, that we're so spiritual and we're so powerful that we came here, we're going to enlighten others, we're going to save others, we're going to show them the path of ascension. And that what actually backfires, not just that, and doesn't just build more karma for ourselves, but what it actually does, right, is it's draining us of life force. Because any belief on saving someone and being something there for them, it's a false sense of sacrifice. So this for me was my major pattern in this life, to break free of that pattern of false sacrifice for specific individuals, because God is in charge, and God is in charge in total awareness of each and every individual and what every soul has chosen. And God will send them, yes, help and assistance. And in many cases and forms, that was us. For me, I played that role for many beings, but not many of them have chosen to take in the gift. A lot of these beings stumped on it. They ridiculed it. Some of them even, mocked me. They didn't respect me. They sexualized my essence in their life instead of seeing me as their guiding light. Just my presence. Because the true nature of being an illumined guide for someone is just your presence is enough. Not you falsely sacrificing and doing something and investing with the other person's just staying numbed and basically refusing and deflecting your assistance, right? Or sexualizing the connection instead of seeing what the true value and the meaning of life here is. The true exchange, right? So because we're all human, and I have my 50% of my human DNA as well, which means we have these tendencies, and that's what makes us vulnerable and not always staying in the light of truth. So we need to do lots of inner work to dig out these false patterns, distorted versions of, it's basically an inception. It's not the original design made of God and from God. So God can choose to use a human as a vessel to help someone, to assist someone. But if someone doesn't choose, and it may last, I was holding space for someone for a year and they didn't choose. I'm like, fine, And God said, even if that person would beg you on their knees when something would backfire in their own life and they would say, now I need you, you are free to say no. Because that being disrespected you, they made fun of the gift, they didn't take you seriously. And in God's eyes, that is sin against God, because God actually sent you as a gift, because everything is God. Because if people take God as this vertical force of life, but not extensions of life everywhere and everyone, and that's the way God sends help and assistance, but they mock it and they put it away, that's actually sinning against God. Because you're not seeing that life is divine, that you're divine, others are divine, and you're always sent helpers. And if you will mock that, it's like that term in the Bible, right? Putting pearls in front of swine. They don't deserve them. They don't know what to do with them, right? So God said, in any case, if you are here, you need to know you're not obligated just because someone is praying and begging. And, they have to show at least a minimum amount of devotion, of appreciation, which is gratitude and respect. And, most people on earth, they don't have that. Which even for us as illumined beings, these people act out as karmics. There are karmics. These people in my life were teaching me lessons about life. And through them, I got to, break free from these false patterns, like patterns of needing to be there for someone all the time. You know, they can do whatever they want, but because I'm so full of love, I will always be there for them because I love them so much. That's not truly unconditional love. You know who's actually the truest mother? Is the mother who will let a child stumble and fall so they will eventually learn and grow on their own. Not a mother who babies them all the time. That's not really a mother. A mother, or source as a she, the principle of life, births out all these creations, and she tells them, you're all like me. Just one day on your journey of soul evolution, you will see that. And when you will see that, you will start embodying that more and more, and you will turn into becoming more and more of a light being. Your body will change. It will change vibration. It will shift frequency, and it will become more, and you will grow to be more of a spirit being than just a terrestrial embodiment. But that's where you start. That's the root. That's the seeding principle. That's how souls begin to learn and grow, and realizing more and more about their generosity and their beauty and all these things. But before a soul, just like Jesus wrote in many of his books and gospels, until the soul coming through body still has a majority of this, what we call them, let's just say call them swaying frequencies that will always sway you from left to right, which keeps you stuck in looping in polarity, which is split polarity, unified polarity, and you're based on separation and you function that way. Until there's clearing them there, nothing can actually happen and progress, because every burdened soul has to start this work of uncovering all these fallen patterns through which the darkness can not just intervene on the behalf of darkness, not of the light of God, but it can hijack, can manipulate, can distort. It can even distort your guidance. There's so many ways. Like just recently, I channeled how, a lot of times people do this Akashic work, channeling, and they would say, oh, this person was in my past life and this happened, and they believe just because they received that information. Or when they do readings on themselves, sometimes asking more questions and being curious will actually not do good for you, because you will get your answers, but where did you get those answers from? And a lot of people, if they're desperate to know, instead of build on understanding through soul growth, which is self-cultivated, and they're seeking on the outside, they want answers, seeking on the outside, you will get those answers. But let me tell you, those answers will not come from source, because you haven't done the inner work to receive them directly from God and your own family of light. You haven't. So you're going to get false relationships, false impersonifications of angels, beings, deities, all that. But most of them are fallen beings, fallen angels, fallen astral beings, or entities, whatever you may call them. And they may present very glamorously and gloriously, but no, it's not what they truly are. And you need to be very vigilant in who you are, developing your illumined cognition. That's why I created all these courses for you. Those of you still watching, go on my illumination playlist. There's all these courses on mastering the dark and mastering through the matrix understanding and all of that. That's my labor of love for all of you here for free. So just go ahead and use it, right? So one example that God gave me today specifically was, you have a belief, that person was in my life. So you believe they have to be in your life now. So you build a relationship, but that person actually has a very negative effect and a very, very negative energy. And whenever they're there, they make you feel sick or something's always off. But you have this belief, well, but I was told that in this past life, we were this and that, and we need to do the karmic clearing. My beloved, please don't fall for that, because the only karmic clearing that we're here to do is from within. So when you dismantle all that crap, all that's dense, that's low, that's fallen, starts within. All the fallen energies, lust, greed, jealousy, anger, frustration, resentment, so many, many, many. These are all fallen aspects of our true source nature. Devotion, beauty, glory, mercy, compassion, self-love, love for others in all life, right? Service to all life. All these, if you want to ascend, they have to be replaced with these higher qualities or higher essences of life. That's what beloved Jesus already taught. But still so many souls 2,000 years later, clueless about. They want to start somewhere, so we go out and we watch more readings and we get more material, more knowledge. We want more, 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 always from the outside. But we get false. We get tricked so many times without ever realizing, because we think, well, someone always knows better than I do. Well, that's handing all your power to them. And I've been talking about this for years now. But we're at the climax period now, where if you don't learn this now, you will never learn it in the cycle. That's what God said. If you don't understand this now, if you haven't mastered this yet, you're not going to go into this new splitting reality, and you will be left behind for the new cycle that will be then. So remember when I talked about the period of grace and the period of grace ending? That's that. That's exactly what this was. When the splitting will begin, has begun now. It means it's in parallel with this, what God said, the period of grace is ending. I don't know how many of you have watched Rudolf Steiner's at least one video. One of his video works is called The Origin of Darkness, and it talks about these beings. I think it's about Lucifer as well, and one being specifically, one spirit being called Ahriman, and this being preparing for his incarnation in the third millennia, which is now the third millennia. If you go Google it in Wikipedia, it is from 2001 to 3000, right? AD, after the death of Christ. But the Christ never died, right? So this is now. And in one of his videos, it specifically states that it won't pass in many years. It won't be long, in just a few years, when the third millennia begins, when the Ahriman, or the spirit being, the spirit presence, will incarnate. And what we see now, all this is a webbing, a system, a gridding, a plugging that would serve that being, that would serve that fallen consciousness. That's what you're actually noticing. Not an improvement of our infrastructure on Earth, but a very degraded, very lowered, very self-serving, totally non-benevolent, hijacked, imposing, forceful. It's not just about there being, we say, communism and these things. This is basically anti-Christ at its finest, right? All these things we're now being forced to accept, like these vaccinations and all that. All these are preparations for beings to literally serve the dark, for humans to hold that kind of specific embodiment that they would serve dark. And I will tell you again what Spirit shows me numerous amounts of time, over and over again. Those who will stay on Earth, those who will not get through this impulse into the new timeline, through the split, and enter into the new reality which we've already created at the template level, these souls will be left behind. They will have to go through this cycle, a 3D expression as well. And the 3D expression here will be very, very low. It will be lower than it was before. For some reason, I don't know. But I guess these souls, not enough have chosen, it means they need more push and more push, which they've chosen that. At the collective level, somehow they've chosen it. And it will get continuously harder and harder on Earth. And I've shared about this before, and not a lot of people believe that, and they're all in their self-born bubble, and they're like, oh yeah, and this and that, and dreaming and being this. You have to start conjuring up your new reality. You have to start thinking big term, long term. One example here with my house, right? I know it's just a temporary manifestation. The reason why the darkness got me so hooked in the past few days and weeks, let's say months, almost 2 months now, it's because they kept looping me and kept me stuck in these things that people were saying. You need to fix this, that has to be done, this and this is not fine, this is not okay. So I would be focused on 3D, very dense, very physical reality, instead of already ascending into the new and creating the new. That's how darkness was coming into my life. And I had to break free very hard, not just through relationships, but here with the house and what the darkness was trying to do. They were like spinning me around so I couldn't come and enter into my core. And because it was getting closer and closer to that final breakthrough, as Spirit already explained, right, the darkness was working harder and harder to keep me going and looping in the wrong direction. But it's inevitable. Even if I'm a little behind and, not getting it, I am getting it. Today, something was shared in my group. I have a group of few very beautiful individuals who are doing the work. I can just name them, a few with one hand, but it's still very important that these individuals are the one who've chosen to walk through every single one of these initiations. So someone in my group today, they've shared about the fact how they've noticed suddenly, because they watched this video about the Adam and Eve and the primordial garden, and how there was a temptation through the apple, right? The Eve biting, like the feminine biting into the apple, which is, the feminine is our bodies. What we feed our bodies, what we give our bodies to, what we sacrifice for in the body. So, there's no coincidence, she said, that we now have this technology coming through the brand called Apple. She said, this is our modern day Garden of Eden where we're all being tempted. She said, I've noticed in myself that each time I would really need to plug into source, I'm actually reaching for my phone. I've noticed the same many, many times. I'm so sorry about the darkness, though. Really am. It just doesn't want to work. I guess I should speak like this, or someone should hold their hand. Um, because that's just how dirty the darkness is playing, right? And it's been getting harder and harder for us, and we're not supposed to feel bad for ourselves, because sometimes we go like, how am I so stupid? Why don't I figure that out? Why can't I shift? Why can't I change? Is because it's a very, very dense system. It's a energetically dense system. The reason why it's so pressing at us and so oppressive is because it wants the maximum amount of souls staying here, because they need life force. The darkness, as I've already explained, they can build their systems. They can do whatever they want. They can have the most advanced artificial consciousness constructs and design coming through their fallen minds, because that's all they are. They're the remnants of the greatness they once used to be, and they're using that in a very dysfunctional antichrist way, and sending us these subliminal messages through these lower frequencies. So the reason why they need so many is because they're powerless without having a backup, a reserve of that which feeds, and humans, as being so life force sustenance, being terrestrial, having bodies, having the illumined principle through which the light moves from the bottom of our perineum center to the top of our head and splurging on the outside and climaxing through our bodies. That's the reason why they need, and if their plans are great, they need more and more of those who would serve. They would serve as food. They need that life force supplement. For them, it's a supplement. Like we humans, we have to take a supplement because our body is no longer able to produce something, so we take a supplement, right? Because we've been so malnourished. Imagine them being in the same way. So we are like their supplements, and they need more and more to take them with them to the next cycle. So I think someone already explained this very well. They can't prevent those that have already chosen ascension, but what they can do is they can hijack a large amount of souls who are somewhere in between, the vulnerable ones, those who are neither young souls, neither very, very old, ancient, mature souls, somewhere like in between. They lack the proper amount of experience that would get them to believe that all this is real. Like you have to start somewhere, but we're at a time now when you don't have much time to prepare and say, I'm going to study the whole encyclopedia of Rudolf Steiner and his work. All these beings who already chosen to ascend, they did that. Most of the people I talk to, they say, I know this work. That's my favorite book. That's this, that's that. They know. They've done their preparation work. Not just this lifetime, but many, many lifetimes. These souls, however, they're unprepared. They're still stuck in karmic relationships. They have usually very strong defense mechanisms built within them, refusing the light of illumined truth, because there's so much darkness still within them that they can't. It's almost like they want the light, but they can't take it at the same time. They can't follow it. They can't go after it. So they have ego, pride. They have strong defense mechanism. They have many, many wounds, and even their lifetimes were as such. Today I got this guidance that many, many masculines specifically who are a part of these lower cycles, and how darkness gets them is through choosing a mother that wasn't really tentative to their needs, didn't give them love unconditionally. It was a very either domineering energy or something. So they build patterns of resentment towards the feminine. So they only can relate to the feminine in a sexual way. I've experienced that with most guys I met. They can only relate to you sexually. They can sexualize the relationship. But when you're the priestess, when you're the empress, when you're the magician, the magical creature, and you have all this knowledge, they will deflect from you. And in a way, they resent you. It's because they have this deeply rooted pattern that they can't even access it because it's so deep. They would need lots of help and assistance, but coincidentally, they can't have that because they're so pridefully stubborn. So that's the difficult part. And we've worked as my team of light with some of these stubborn individuals, and usually it fails because it's very difficult to get across them, and I have a specific individual, their soul always calls out to me. I'm like, what? I'm like, I tried, I did everything. What do you want from me? It's like, I can't. I'm not God. Because we literally are not. I can hold my life. It can be an luminous inspiration, and I can just pull souls through me, through my own vortex by keeping it spinning. But I can't directly save someone if they're not willing to as a person at the personal level. So these souls are very vulnerable individuals, and they have lots of these hooking systems and schematics I'll talk about today as well, just after I finish this. So let me tell you, it's not easy. You have to surrender these individuals to God, and in your prayer and faith. Maybe they're not even religious in that sense. Maybe they're spiritual, but they're not really religious in terms of really knowing God. Because we know God, you know its beauty and glory, you also know its wrath. And if there's darkness within you and you've somehow served the darkness, even unawareingly, and you've hurt someone who was a beautifully benevolent individual sent your way by God, God will vindicate them. And it will give you an extra karma. Not because God is vengeful, because you need to see and you need to learn eventually. Right? You need to have that breakthrough. And if it's not now, it will be later once you move through that tower experience. So that's how God works. And it's not never a punishment. It's all these means to wake someone up. And if someone chooses not to wake up in a very benevolent, pure way, that's the easy way. They will have to travel the road less traveled and more and more difficult. It's just how it is. So what I've been shown today is something very complex, because I recently watched this video and someone was saying, someone was doing a reading and they said something like, do you know that many masculines, especially as twins, these twins are, I'll explain more about the twin connection as well. These twins are more target because they're kind of very strong in coming together, and but the twin is not, this twin flame path is not the same as the lumen union path. And lumen union is, I'll explain later, but let me get to what the person was saying first, okay? So the person said that the masculine is very often a bait or used for these entities that a lot of times when they're fully unawake and it's almost like they can't awake from their sleep. There's many entities around them, and eventually, because these entities work through the brain system, they hijack the brain canals in a way, the neural network system, that eventually that person almost feels like they're no longer themselves. I knew a lot of people in my own life, they were always men, and these men, the way I met them first and then what came out of them was like a totally different person, and you could not understand why that personality regressed so much. The person was also saying that if the soul digresses so much, eventually they can turn into a lower type of consciousness creation. They would turn more and more to a fallen being than, a soul evolving, and they would choose the regressive path. And this is where the split is happening now. You're either going to choose progression, evolution, or regression. And a lot of these beings, unfortunately, I really am like so sorry to say that, but it's the truth. They will choose to become regressives. And these regressives are in a way, because the future and past are interlinked. So their current nows are the future selves that are returning, and it's like cycle needs to play out somehow. And we don't know, but God sees and God knows, as its pure benevolent intelligence, how this will play out. So how this happens a lot of times in many of these men, how I was shown, is through very difficult matrix encoded jobs. Most of these men are in very heavy jobs, but the way they come into these jobs or positions of power, it's like the salary is good. They have a feeling of, now I'm self-confident because I'm this boss, or I'm this and that. I knew someone once who told me, I love being a boss. I'm like, whoa, see, those are all the tricks, and people don't even notice them when they say these things. What are you actually saying? What are you channeling? Wake up. Really wake up, And a lot of the times these are spiritual beings. Like, they want to be. They're studying spirituality, but they're not seeing the darkness when it's being played out in their own lives. That's the worst kind of blindness. Like, you're reading it here, but it's actually here you're supposed to be focusing on, like all the blind spots. And they're everywhere. No one is immune, by the way. And so these jobs, I don't know how, I do, but it's a very complex topic, and I'm not going to go into it now. But these jobs put such pressure on these individuals that, and it's also, you take it because you love power. You love to have a good position, even if you hate it. The position, it's good. It glorifies you in a sense. But what it does is actually glorifying the darkness. It's not a simple kind of job. Let's say if someone is a waiter or someone works in a old retirement home serving others. And, it's kind of positions that are very, we call them the grid jobs, the matrix jobs, the corporation, it's corporate based. A lot of them comes from Corporation of America, the Inc. It's the incorporated. And these positions are always very heavy. So masculine who enters this job a few years later, it's no longer the same. I knew someone who was in family business. I knew them as when they were still much younger. They were very sporty, and that's actually the karmic relationship I had. And I knew them a few years later, totally different person, more and more sucked into the dark vortex. They even lost their kind of childlike sense. And it was like, who am I watching here? Because these people are not progressing for the better. And we were having a lot of these discussions with my mother, why these people are progressing always for the worse. One example is my own, I actually have, I'm not going to say relationship, but it's someone in the family. It's close blood family of mine. I don't want to get too personal here because it's still my life and I need to protect myself because there's a lot of psychos out there as well, not just those of you doing this diligent work, beautiful devotees and pioneers. But this person was the same. They started eating a lot of meat before they were vegan. They got this job, which is again, money chasing, money grabbing. They changed. Like after a few years, they were not the same. And they were treating like my mother in a very, very, very poor way. And it was almost like zero respect for the mother, for the feminine, and that's what these things do. That's the first part. The second part is we talked about these astral entities that are sexually hijacking the connections. This usually happens via, if you have a physical relationship that's that's false sexuality, which is fallen sexuality, which is very lusty in nature. You meet someone who would actually deprive you of energy. They kind of take a lot of energy. Women who've been with such partners, especially, we feel very, very drained. It's almost like a dark cloak has been put around you. That's energy vampirism. And it's not just happening sexually. It's on all levels. I always say that everyone who's being drunk, sucked through the matrix, will in turn suck someone else. There's no other way of survival. So in that regard, in astral it happens as well. We've talked about these entities, succubus, incubus, right? Preying on feminine, masculine energies in the human form. So when they drain you sexually, when they drain your sexual vital life force here, you can't start doing the tantric work, connecting this and this. Because the only solution for what this person was saying, and they were saying the truth about the neural pathways being totally altered, so your synapses and the way you receive the divine guidance and connection, it's no longer working. All you feel is heaviness, and you want, it's something in you that keeps calling you. The soul can still be felt, the call of the soul, but it's almost like a feeling you're entrapped in this lid-covered box. And you feel the calling, you have the longing, but you have zero idea of how to even begin. You feel like your hands are tied. And then, of course, if you have strong ego, pride, and resistance, then there's very few means that through which source can actually work with you. And that's why a lot of these beings, they will not make it. They will not go to the next cycle because they just haven't done the work and they haven't chosen it. And that's okay. We have to accept that because the way the darkness works with those who are ascending is telling you that you're responsible for these beings and you are falsely sacrificing for a lot of these individuals who haven't even chosen to ascend. So when you have your own source connection build up, you will know. You remember the words of Jesus? Jesus knew them because he knew their hearts. So he could tell through his source connection for each individual where they are in their individual journey. He knew who was in need of saving and who can accept, whose soul will accept the gift and whose soul will not accept the gift. So his gift was not shared with everyone. If you read the Gospels properly, you will see he did not choose to assist everyone. He had that discernment. He knew where the gift will be wasted. But a lot of us still don't know that, and especially because we're being so bombarded and manipulated through the New Age with these false unconditional love beliefs. That's not unconditional love. You know, I read this comment recently for somewhere when I watched this reading, and a woman commented down below, yeah, but that's my twin flame, and I'm a healer type of being, so my love goes out for there, and they always need in my energy, and I give them to them, even if they treat me like this and that, and like crap. When has this twin flame become such a term of excuse for us to not know what true love is, what true sacrifice is, there is no sacrifice in devotion. But this falsely created prism that's really not the prism of illumined light, that's what it becomes, and that's how we distort it, and that's how the matrix distorts the true nature of God. Right? Use the discernment. Who can be assisted? Right? They have to first approach towards you humbly and with respect. If not, they have to ask. Even in Jesus' example, they had to ask. Or they were asked on the behalf of someone in their family, and he connected and he saw. He literally always read the light quotient. And that's what he explains in his gospel, right? The Alpha and Omega. He says, I was just able to tune into where the individual is. And we say, well, he brought them back to life. He said, no, it's just they had enough swaying of the life force energies, and they could still be saved. They were not meant to die yet. But if someone was meant to die and that was their chosen destiny, he had nothing to do with it. That was not the kind of miracle saving we're talking about. It was just a nudge, an assistance of something that the darkness was trying to prevent for that individual, and might have taken longer for them to come into the soul awareness they could if they followed the right trajectory. And this is where he could assist. And this is also how he demonstrated how a true healer assists. And nowadays in our New Age movement, it's all corrupt, it's all falsified, and everyone's trying to put their, energy imprints onto the other, and it's all full of it's just so much energy in the mix that you can't even tell apart the truth from lie. The great deception. For years we've had it. So few people are waking up from it. You see how few people watch my videos. So few people really know what this great delusion was all about. And that it's really time for us to wake up from it if we want to be a part of that split. So you might ask, well, if that person who was then hijacked here sexually through this astral sexual hijacking or an attachment or even an entity attachment that's not just temporary but it's permanently then rooted into your body, that can be, if you have given so much of your life quotient, there's a specific amount, then it becomes a permanent entity attachment until you one day, but it's much more difficult for that soul to then wake up because they're half possessed, right? So these things all exist. And you might say, well, then what's the answer for these beings if they're hijacked here? They can't lift their energy, so they can't shift. The brain work, neural pathways, they were also distorted. The only solution that I've told you for years is one and the same. It's been taught in the ancient mystery schools. Kriya Yoga, whether you call it Kriya, whether you call it Pranayama, whether you call it Tantrika, life force yoga. It is the life force yoga, the understanding of the cultivation of the vital life force energies and how they flow through our human bodies. And then doing the work. Don't just paraphrase. Don't just, do the, but I'm doing my daily prayers and my rituals. It's not enough. You have to do the life force cultivation. No one, no matter how faithful you are, no matter how much you believe in God, Christ, Jesus, whatever. No amount of that. Faith alone is not enough. It is what gets you to connect to the guidance. But you have to, until you have a physical body, work with and through the body. And that's what I've been implying to most of the people still watching my videos. Get the courses. Get the Tantrical Life Force Mastery course. Get these Organic Trinity of Life, course package. Do that. Use that until the time is still vital. Because we are in the end of the period of grace. This is simultaneous to the process of the splitting that has already begun. And so, yes, the only solution, even for these masculines who've been very hijacked, is that they start doing the breath of life work. They start doing body work. Maybe at first, some of these masculines would begin with just basic exercise like running, jogging, walking, mountaineering, climbing, running, swimming. I said running twice. It's that important, But it's just to get your energy moving enough that eventually you see that the movement then has to be, when your body has been claimed physically, that then you also need to claim it spiritually. And this is how it might begin for some individuals. Finally, after years of being very passive energies and modalities, starting to do the movement of energy through their bodies. That's the only saving grace left for them. No one can just pray for you and you're going to be fine. Prayer assists in that, creating like a field of light around that individual. So it assists them in waking up, but the work can only be done by them. For each individual, it's the same. Universal laws are the same. There's no exceptions. There's no rule regulations. It's just as it is. Because we're all equally loved and we all equally need to do the work. And so that's the only solution, because everything can be dispelled by the knowing of the Kriya system in the body, by the understanding of the life force, which is God. It's divine intelligence, is this breath of life, is the vitality of life. But that's the feminine principle. And if you as a masculine are somehow deflective towards the feminine principle, you don't respect the feminine principle, not just that you won't respect the principle, but you will not respect the feminines in your life. You cannot cultivate a tantric relationship with the female, with the equal feminine who can be your ascending partner. You cannot. You will stay in karmic, entrenched relationships. And it's your own choice, because you're choosing to be lazy and not to do anything about it. It goes the same for everyone, And so that work of cultivation can heal anything. Like for me, that's how transgression was healed from my body. And knowing the power of life force in the body. First, you have to have faith and believe in it, that it works. You have to understand that that's the basic principle. If you just like wishful think that, yeah, maybe it's true, maybe not. If you have like a little inkling of doubt, it won't work. That's why faith is what Jesus thought the most important first thing. The Christ flame carried within you, amplified every day. Ask for the flame of Christ within your body to be amplified. And then do the work. Have to start somewhere. The more you will cultivate and breathe. So instead of reaching for the phone, for me, when I'm exhausted, when something drained me, either through the matrix or what darkness has been doing to put these things under my feet all the time, and these false relationships that are karmic instead of true love based and devotional and respectful and integrity based, then they will drain me. And when I'm drained, usually I will first and foremost, my body will go for food. I'm gonna crave food. Like, oh, I could eat anything right now, but I can't, right? Because I have a certain amount that I can fit in my belly. But it's the body at that time, it actually craves life force. It craves for you to just lie down, do the breath. And I've been myself sometimes absent from this practice because I've been so, when you're so low in your energy, when the outside world just gets you at every level, when you're absolutely depleted, that's how the darkness works, like backstabbing until it like gets to the core of your human spirit. It like breaks your human spirit. It breaks your trust, your faith. And for some individuals, it even breaks their connection to God. So they become faithless in their actions as well. A person who will hurt another person who's only there to love them, if they manage to hurt them, for me, that's not a faithful person. That's not a person of faith, because when you have faith, you know that God is in everything and everyone. You would never hurt one living creature, let alone someone who's just willing to help you and love you and support you and put your hand and pull it. I've had that experience, and recently as well. I've been going on for a year, and I've been really like, it's my own learning to know that nothing will come out of this situation. If a person doesn't choose it, they won't. And it's not up for me to save them. No matter how their soul asks me, I have to say to that soul, you are of God. Realize that. Find God. Because God is in charge of every single soul. Not me. I'm a powerful being, it's Polona Aurea, but I'm not God. And no one is. We are aspects of God. We're godly beings. We're God created beautiful light beings. But God itself is in charge of every individual being. No other being is ever in charge of another individual or responsible for them. So if people are being irresponsible in their own actions and deeds and all that, they will have to, have their karmic retribution. And we will have to, the pure ones, will have to get vindicated as well. It's equal process. It walks hand in hand. So these things, anything, even in the brain system, anything, like the worst type of energies, I'll tell you with my own transgression experience that anything and everything can be healed and released through this discharge. The usage of your natural inborn sexual energy, guiding it through the channels, creating the vortex here, the pineal, the perineum, the crown vortex, working with the 3 portals, the root, the heart, and the crown. Connecting through your column, the prism of light, and all these things are vitally important. But you have to know, I wanted to say some more about the twin path. There's a lot of misconception about the words we use twin, and there nowadays, the reason why I don't like it so much as a label is because it's being falsely used, because what I see people describing a lot of the times as the twin is karmic. Everything based in lower energy is the karmic. But how Spirit calls me the twin flames, or these beings who are at the twin flame level of integration and meeting these oppositions or their counterparts through the twin flame consciousness, is the type of consciousness that actually breaks free or breaks through the karmic patterns. That's why these individuals are in these mirroring counterpart processes, and they're mirroring where they still have these fears and rejection and all these things, because it's a movement from the karmic through the twin into the illumined. There's 3 levels: karmic, the twin, and the illumined. The twin is simply a state or a space of integration. If that counterpart is your partner and you manage to do that, what people call the permanent union, the physical union, they will stay as your life partner. For some people, it's not going to be like that. For some people, they do this twinning process with someone who's not ready, and then they will choose someone else as their life partner. But people who get stuck on one particular individual who doesn't move, and they won't move. They won't move. And like the being was saying, some of them were hijacked along the way, and maybe they're not ready. And their soul would need help and assistance, of course, through God, and beings who are able to do that kind of work. but you will get your new life partner. That's why don't get stuck with the individual. So rule of the game is don't focus on the karmic as a person or one individual. Think of it as an energy. When the individual channels that energy for you or you for them, you will know. Because it's always down pulling. But when you have nothing but pure love, when you're really knowing yourself as a Christ, you're not karmic to anyone. They can still be karmic to you, but you will not be karmic for them. You will be guiding light and the principle of guiding light for others. But until that chain is broken, in that chain of advancement and evolution of souls, everyone will be karmic for someone else. So let's say someone I knew, they had a karmic partnership, but they were karmic to me because their energy towards me was not unconditionally loving and true love. It was karmic. It was downpulling and it was vampiric. Karmic energy is always codependent. That's why it's a source of vampirism, energy vampirism. It's not just a form of low-life entities, but also humans who are still not fully in charge of their own integral sovereign light beingness. They're not fully Christed beings yet. So the twin flame is the path towards the integration of the integral sovereign, but it's still a path of much learning and growth. And that's why these beings have this mirroring. But Spirit told me a long, long time ago, you're not a twin flame. You're not on this path. You are a twin soul. And a twin soul is basically everyone. Every being was born this way, as individual soul moving out into life and creation. But to be that, an embodiment, means that you have a fully balanced masculine, feminine traits and energy expressions. And that's why you are the ultimate healer. You are the illumined being, illumined healer, and illumined guide. All these three. All these principles then live within us. But what people who have karmic tendencies still, they would not see it. So because they're only used to karmic energy, they would tend to treat you or act towards you in a karmic way. That's why you as a guide, you have to be very firm. I had to learn in my life to not go and become a part of their story. And sometimes it was very difficult, I'll tell you. Sometimes I love a person really much and I like them. And then that liking becomes a vulnerability and it gets me hooked into their own cycles. And I have to be like, no, I'm not going to be part of your cycle. I'm not going to be part of your karmic energy because then I'm being downpulled and I'm no longer feeling myself. And immediately what happens, I start swaying or looping in their vibration, not in mine. That's why quickly, if you're a true empath, galactic nature, you can, in your humanness, in your human body, sway towards that expression. And then you start digging through the dirt that someone else was supposed to be digging through, not you. Okay? So immediately, the moment you become a Christ being, all the karmic energy is broken through, broken free. And when I say karmic energy, it's not just people. It's all that we're being sold, all the technology that keeps us plugging in to the false grid instead of the only source that is source. It's God. Life force is its only language. It's not a computer. It's not a device. It's not an iPad. It's not an iPhone. It's not the next best thing. It's not a device. It's not a car. It's not a fancy job. It's not money. None of it. We just use that as a means to survive until we're here doing the work. But you also have to know that being a human who is ascending, you have to see this reality right now, no matter how difficult it is. You have to see it as temporary. That's what the word Maya as the great illusion serves for. Life in itself is not an illusion, terrestrial life. But life in the matrix and the prism, it is. The fallen kind of presentation of what life is and supposed to be, and how we're supposed to live and operate and work with each other, and relationships that are not really honoring each other, and they're not honoring of the self first and foremost, that's not that. That's not the honoring of life, period. And if an individual is acting that way towards you and they're being avoidant, they're not talking to you, they're not communicating, they're pulling away, they're basically emotionally manipulating you. Because you know when someone withdraws their energy, it's a sort of a means of punishment. You know, I have this many times in my life. I will tell someone off because I will tell them the truth, like, you know, see the truth or wake up or nothing. Give me all or nothing. Don't come up with me with this type of energy anymore because it's regressive and it's karmic. It has nothing to do with me. My personal choices as an own sovereign living God being. I'm not choosing what you're choosing, so don't bring it over to me. And if the being doesn't want to hear that each time they come, a little sneaky, giving you crumbs, that's called now, I've heard this term called breadcrumbing. But that's the truth that exists, that they give you little pieces, but they never give you the truth, never give you the respect, never it's honoring, it's always in the secret, it's always like hiding. That's karmic. If you put the words twin flame to it, that's karmic. When it's truly twin flame, you have two individuals who are equally aware that this is this, and they're going to trigger each other, and they're going to do the work. That's the twin. If it's not, it's maybe a twin that hasn't chosen it. It doesn't matter. Even if it's twin, it's playing in the karmic field of energy. You have to learn that. Don't fall for the label. Read the energy. Read between the lines. See what's being literally felt. A lot of us still fall for these projections of the dark. The dark doesn't just play in the dark. We've talked about this before. The main play field now of the dark is fallen light. It's the illusory light of false hope. So light will give you, through this dark magic, light knows, fallen light, right? It knows how to mimic the light, but it's the energy that has no substance. That's something I told you many, many times before. So you need to learn the energy, right, to read it. And so you might get these visions. They're hopeful and they're keeping you on the status quo. Like you're always waiting for someone and you say, yeah, they're going to give me that. I'm going to wait for them. I'm going to wait. And you're always waiting. And it's like pending. And the moment it's pending, you're looping. Starts to loop. What's the true twin soul consciousness? It's the infinity symbol from one to the other. It's a reciprocal relationship, an equal give and take, mutual balance, offering through source, Christhood, beingness, life, flowing, motion, movement, spiral. That which I described previously, that's karmic, it's looping, spinning. And a lot of the people who are trying to find a way out of it and trying to find it through the mind, what to do, no, they have to get into their bodies. Because the body, if you're getting enough illumined quotient up the head, it will eventually clear the brain channels that have been hijacked. You will get more and more back to who you truly were. Unfortunately, most people will not. I was shown that their souls who have been karmic for those who are ascending, they were their karmics. They were their karmics for a reason, because it's not their time yet. So they've either learned, if they've gotten an impulse or the seed of those who are ascending, they've gotten the impulse and they will use it in their next cycle when it's their time. But the seed of something there was already planted. So don't try to save and rescue anyone. They've received the seed. If they're in the karmic trench, let them. If they were karmic for you, but you're going the ascended path, you're going towards full illumination, don't fall for that. Don't look back. Look forward. Read the energy, know what you're choosing. There is a divine destined partner for everyone who have chosen in the name of God and is asking God for their specific partner to be their equal. It will come manifest. But not if you're looking back and giving the energy to the karmic. You have to unplug on every single level. And either 1% of that still being dormant within us, choosing to play it, like rumbling, is not enough. That's how our choices are right now. So the reason why I'm sharing this all with you is because I love you and I want the people who have really chosen to ascend, no matter how few, you know, and you feel it within the core, you feel it in your bones, you know what, you've done the work, you've done the preparation. People who've done nothing but, yeah, this illusory, wishy-washy, non-decisive, yeah, I like it, no. It's appealing, but nah, the work seems too hard. It's not their time. Don't take it personally if these people are part of your life somehow in certain parts or segments of your life. You were probably an upliftment for them. They've gotten an injection of light that they needed at that point. But don't feel bad for them. No one is supposed to be seen as a wuss or a weak or vulnerable in the way that they're a victim. See them as divine. Their time will come, but they need to choose it first. And you've chosen it. You're the one. You're the one who's now watching these videos. You're the one doing the work. Okay? So you need to know that the karmic is an energy. It's the energy that hooks you and binds you to the 3D level of the incepted reality. The original human reality was not 3D at all. It was 5D. That was the first original blueprint for the human expression in terrestrial life. In many other starseed systems, that's how it begins. But here, in many, many fallen worlds, that's how low it goes. And it's very hard actually to go from this 3D entrenched into higher echelons of light. And so this cycle now, it's the period of grace is ending and we're moving to this next stage of the evolution of our human spirit. And those of you who are choosing the illumined light, the ascension, you just keep on moving forward. Don't look back. Even if your current life feels so weird, like for me it does. Like I bought a house that doesn't feel like my home. And then, I realized that that's how the darkness gets me. When me and my mother, we made this choice recently and we said, you know what, we're going to see this house as our temporary refuge. That's what it is. It's still better than before when we were renting, right? And yeah, a lot of our savings and, that I had are gone with the wind because there were so many expenses that were unforeseen. But the moment I feel bad about it, darkness gets me. because it makes me doubt things as they are. And so we need to see it, and we decided we will see it as a temporary space, like, oh, it's a vacation house, it's a vacation home. We're here for a limited time being. Even before, we knew our home was temporary. And we were told it's supposed to be 5 years, and then it ended up being, because of the transgression, it ended up being 7. So lots of things, delays, dropouts, fallouts. But many of these delays were also because I've explained before, and when I talked about the period of grace, you know, that video, I made it sometime in spring, just watch it. I talked about how some of souls have asked specifically to be, like, a lot of more than we anticipated made the choice, but we needed to stay with our frequency to be available for them, because they still made the choice. That's how it was shown, and that's why the period of grace was assigned. But in order for us to not suffer, because so many of you are already ready to be in a new frequency, this world feels more and more like a deprivation for you, like a prison. Like you can't really expand and explore yourself as a fully multiversal being. Like we all made, in a way, a sacrifice. But these souls, God has somehow calculated their requests into the collective divine plan. And so it was like prolonged. And then this intervention had to happen, and the movement through the transgression program. And we needed to do new plannings. That's what light beings do. There's always a plan and a backup plan and a new plan, because life is infinite. There's no final solution. If the darkness does something that feels like such a tremendously, you know, abomination kind of deed against God, a sin against God, light will find a way. Illumined light is God. It's the mimicking of source. It's a direct translation of life force of source. And it knows how to move the energy. Oh, we're going here. Oh, we're going here. Oh, we're going here. They always find solutions. I'm going to say we because I'm one of the beings. We always find solutions. And you can join the family of light because you originate from there. That's why you're here and doing the work. So I know I'm getting very, very excited in my videos, but that's the main message for today. Don't get too bogged down and you know, when things aren't working out with your 3D world. Like I always say to Spirit, I say, why is my inner world so rich? I have so much in spirit, but why is my physical 3D life poverty based? You know, like always getting the worst case scenario, the worst house, the worst apartment, like always these yucky conditions. A lot of you feel the same. I've talked to people in my group. They had the same. But it's because, as I've explained, when the Christ is in 3D, in 3D, you can't fully be the Christ. We will only start feeling the expression of our Christ as like co-creating with it at the 5D level and beyond. In the 3D, the Christ is still working with its energy to elevate and dig out those energies that are keeping souls stuck and want to go even lower than 3D, because some of them, you don't want to hear them, but they will go even lower than what we call the 3D now, because there has been a tremendous regression. But for some level, that needs to play out. And we're not the rule makers here. We are simply beings choosing love. We're beings working with our illumined light. We're knowing the directive of Prime Source, and we're governing ourselves through divine principles and laws. And people who are faithless, people who are like, yeah, whatever. Person tells you something, you've hurt me, and you're like, yeah, whatever. I don't care. You never take responsibility for your actions. You're not a person of faith. I'm sorry. You are not. Because you're being irresponsible, and you're being reckless, and you're being foolish and ignorant. And God has given a gift of love to every single one of souls. But some souls have wasted that gift. They no longer worked and operated within love. And many of these souls, not just by their own choice, as you well know, they were very heavily manipulated through these systems, through the matrix. And that's the reason why I'm sharing these videos. I want them to talk about this yourself too. Don't be shy. Spread these truths. First, personify them from within you. Because what we see now in the New Age, it's all just love, and it's all positive, and it's all just about, you know, I just recently, after many, many months, I watched this movie. It was like this musical. It's like, you know, childlike, but sometimes I need that to unplug. It was many, many months. And I was watching the movie, and I was looking how simple it all adds up in the movies. And someone who's wounded, and, you know, they have issues, they always come around. At the end, they're a hero. They choose the light. They choose God. It's always something like that. But in real world, the reason why that is not as simple as in the movies is because of all this, all the grid, all the matrix. You might ask yourself, but why can't I be that hero? And why am I having it so difficult? Why isn't it so magical as in the movies? Because the movie is a false reality. It's false imaging portraying as real, but it's not. It's the ideal condition if there was no regression, if there was no opposition, no antichrist, nothing, no evil spirits incarnating, because they do, you know? Just like beings like Aurea, who has her incarnate as me, incarnate as powerful spirit beings taking up human bodies, evil spirits do that as well. Don't doubt that for 1 second, because you see our world in just 1 year and a half since this whole mumbo jumbo has occurred. Everything has started down spiraling. Like 1 year, you saw everything down spiraling, and yet there's still people. Yeah, but the White House will save us. Well, these people will save us. These politicians will save us. No, you have to know there's only one thing real, which is the split. There will be people choosing that, and there will be people not choosing that. But you have to do the work first. All these lower swaying frequencies, lower tendencies that Jesus talks about, if they're sinful against God, you need to clear them out of your body and system forever for good, right? Like, I've been hurt by people so many times in my life that I remain angry, vindictive, hateful, spiteful. No, I'm always returning to the innocent, playful child that I am. Always. Nothing will get me down. But souls who are not as powerful as beings, they get, like, every time they get lower, 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 they choose to down spiral. But all it takes is, Jesus always says to us, he always says, it's so simple, but people don't see how simple it is. It can shift like this. But because darkness makes it so complex, and it has this belief that we just can't get ahead of it. We can move through it. That's what happens, you know? So maybe stop putting your phone in your hands every time that something gets you, like, oh, what if instead I'm going to do 10 really deeply relaxing breaths? Because you know what happens? The more you do, you're going to want to do more. Let me just lie down when I'm tired instead of just eating for a while. Maybe that's what my body needs, rest, not just food. Because the body gives us different impulses in what it needs. And sometimes it will distort when it's really tired what it truly needs. And sometimes it just needs TLC, tender loving care, self-love, self-compassion. So be really tentative with your energy, where you're giving your sacrifices, who and what to. A lot of people who are even lower karmic energies, like I would say them being karmic to me, they have even lower karmic expressions. That they're in relationships, they're totally incompatible and always fighting, and they're always needing to be the victim, and they're downsizing them. They're shrinking, and every day they shrink a little bit more. Until one day, they no longer know who they are. They no longer recognize themselves. And then you try to help them see through that so they could get back to who their true original soul is. And they're like, no, screw you. I don't want that, because that's not the truth about me. Well, yes, it is. Look at your life. Your life is a story in its own, telling you where you are. Your frequency and how you feel every day tells you all about where you are in consciousness and what you're falsely sacrificing for no reason. It's not worth it. If it's not feeding you love, it's not meant to sustain you. That's one thing. And the second is to wake up through the dark BS and how it operates. And yes, it can hijack the brain canals and the synapses, you know, the neural pathways. Yes, it can hijack the sexual channels. If you're a masculine who's very, when you relate to the feminine, it's still lusty. You have to notice it, but don't suppress it. That's not the solution. You know, like many of the priests, and then they end up raping. Classic example, because the suppression, right? And then you need to go for the most vital force, which is children, have the most vitality in them. Why do you think they're raping children and babies? Because they are most vital. Their energy is still so uncorrupt, and it's so pure. And that's what they need, because they've been suppressing their own, and they're so deep in the dark that that's nothing else they can get it from, and nowhere else. So it is so important right now to know where we, even the best of us, we still do these things like pick up our phones one too many times. When I'm deeply tired, sometimes I would watch something instead of doing the cultivation, because I'm like, I can't do it now. I'm too tired to even do that. No, that's especially when you need to do it. And I need to tell this to myself as well. Don't think I'm not a part of this graded design as well, because the darkness is doing everything in its power to not leave us, not let us go. But the splitting has begun, which means we're already going. And because it knows that, it still works very hard on those few who are in between. We're here to serve those few. When you're in your Christ light, you can. If you're not in Christ light yet, you won't have the proper discernment. You will still tend to sacrifice falsely. So only those beings who are the Christ light can help, because the way we help is you just emanate a powerful force field of this Christ lumen light, which naturally pulls these souls from these dark entrenchments. You don't have to physically do anything with them, because that's the thing, that's the trap. The more you physically engage and the more they'll try to karmic your ass, try to put it into this degraded karmic form and sexualized relationship, the less you'll be able to help them, because they will lower you as well with their energetic games and playing. I recently had this dream with that individual in my life, and they came to me and they were sending me these like messages of testing me out. You know what the last word was? They didn't exchange both, but the last word was playing. And I woke up with that word. I'm like, yeah, of course, that's what this is. It's playing. So it's not the source kind of playing. It's not this beautiful, playful nature that we are as illumined beings. It's these crystalline sparks. So don't resent others if they've done the work. Don't project at them. And especially, don't act out against them in any way. Even if it's just pulling your energy away, like not acknowledging them and thinking, well, that did nothing wrong. Yes, you have. Because that will get you in trouble when it comes to your own source creation. Because that's how God is. And it has a plan for every individual to wake up in its own due time. So all we need to do is focus on carrying the Christ flame, carrying the torch of the Christ flame, doing our due diligence work through devotion, through faith. But then don't forget, the most important work is through the body. Illumination of the body. Illumine life force tactics, techniques, breath work, and then channeling. You need to actually learn how to channel the energy through your body. And when you do, when you're the specific light quotient intelligence, your body will do that naturally. So for me, I don't need to like specifically learn techniques anymore. I will just start breathing and I'm already seeing the energy starts to unwind because I've already done the foundational work, but most people haven't. So I recommend you the courses and all the things. There's so many activations we did for this work in the last year on Patreon because I was going through tremendously difficult years, and that's when I channeled the most profound material of mine. That's what Source says. When you went through the darkness, you channel the most profound information. That's how God works. That's why it was needed so much in the darkness, because the light erupted through it. And I wouldn't get that while I was just lying somewhere there out on the beach. You know, that's going to be later maybe, when my break comes, if it ever does. But we've challenged this last year so many of these activations and the portal work and all these things that if you join the Patreon, but this is at the 3rd tier level, if you want to do advanced body work, that's there as well. But I really recommend to everyone to start with the Tantrica Life Force Mastery course or somewhere there, the Trinity of Life training. Just get your sleeves up and rolling and, you know, get your butt off the chair. That's what we say. So yes, it's really, really intense, my beloveds. And we're all being right now. There's, like I've explained many, many videos ago and throughout time, there's a war for our life force. There's a war for our divinity. This is not a war for oil, who gets to be the president or, you know, where this and that happens. It is a war not just of our consciousness, but what is the consciousness as life? It is life force, the breath of life. If you manage to hijack the life force consciousness, the body serves whatever you want it to be a servant for. That's what the darkness does. So all these things in the nose jab, right? The testing, that's not really what people think. Oh, it's nothing, it's just testing. Oh, at least it's just testing. No, 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 my beloveds. It goes all the way up to the brain. Have you ever considered why? Because there's particles there, and they go in your brain as well. And then they spread around the body, and there's a reason why they jab it so far up. And they want the brain channels of most individuals hijacked, so they couldn't go with the split. We needed appropriate amount of the split, but they made it happen. And I'm thanking my team of light, your team of light, our collective team of light, because it's all the luminous beings. They're all our predecessors. They're all our origin of life. They're our illumined bigger brothers, cousins, whatever you call them. They are the illumined ones. We are the illumined ones. We're here. Not just with the message for a day and age. We are here because we're saying it's happening. Take your pick. But the time is narrowing down, especially now. The period of grace is ending. Simultaneously, the splitting has begun. God will not tell me exactly how this will play out, because as a human, I'm also not supposed to know. I will always get messages along the way. Whatever I can, and as long as I'm still here like physical being, and we are still here in the physical, we don't know how long that will last. No one does. These messages will come out. So in any way you feel guided to support, I advise you to make an energetic contribution, an energetic exchange via my Pay Me button on PayPal. The links are all there, above, below, whatever. And those of you who've already donated, thank you so much. There's just a few of you, but those few of you who've made these contributions, thank you so much. I can't talk to you individually right now, so I'm going to thank you all together, because right now I'm in a very messy thing. I'm far behind my work, and everything right now is still messy in my life. So I need to be very present with my physical life. I need to be very vigilant with what the darkness is trying to do, and get my attention elsewhere, and try to create these scenarios that are fake. I have to be very, very like this, anchored, rooted, firm. And the same goes for you and everyone who's choosing that, and will continue to choose it, because it's not like in the movie The Matrix when you just plug it out and then you're out. In reality, you have to choose it daily, with every breath, with every choice you make each day, when you wake up, when you go to sleep, and all in the middle. So it's all the time. What are you giving your life force for? What are you sacrificing for it? Why? And even with the karmics, if they're people, if they're relationships, a lot of them are here to learn, for us to learn hard lessons. It's not just to say, yeah, I've learned the lesson. Yeah, but what was the lesson? You need to really get it. You need to have ultimate understanding so wisdom can be built around it. So it will never ever repeat again. Because the more it does, and as long as it does, you're still, or we are still in the karmic entrenchment. So be self-confident. Don't allow yourself, like, let's say you love someone, but they're pulling you down, and you out of pleasing them, you lower your energy because you want to please them. That's not love. I used to do that as well. Remnants of that still playing out in this last year, but now I'm like, I know who I am. No one will get that part of me anymore. No one will lower me down. No one will falsify me. No one will sexualize my relationship with them. No one. Because I'm not going to allow them. Because basically, when we go within, it's all that we're still allowing. We're still allowing to play out. It's basically what we're still not loving about ourselves. So true self-love, true unconditional love begins with ourselves and allowing. But allowing is not allowing everything and everyone being done to us because we love so much. That's not allowing. Allowing is, the true art of allowance is allowing the illumined light to show you the way. And saying no to all that's karmic, that's dense, that's toxic, that's keeping us spin in this game that's called the recycling of souls. Because when you cross over, you don't want to cross over and be recycled right back into the hub station, all right? Where you just get to recreate yourself, but not truly create yourself as an ascended being. And unfortunately, I'm being shown it will only be a few at the first ascension splitting cycle, but it will be as many as it's needed, those who have chosen it, and leave the rest to be when it's their time. A new cycle will come. God knows, Source knows everything, and so all we need to do is trust the great divine plan and not get ourselves too entangled with situations that feel emotional, or yeah, but what if this doesn't happen? Oh my God, then we're doomed, then these souls are doomed. No, we must get away from those scenarios because they're fear-based. And a lot of the times for illumined beings, like that's how darkness played me. Try to convince me that I'm responsible for someone. I need to save them. And I had this idea like, okay, I'm going to serve them. I'm serving them. No, the only way to serve another is serving myself by really going deep, tapping into my lumen. Okay, human nature, they're showing me this is what I can do. This is what I cannot do. This is what I absolutely cannot allow. Like Jesus, right? He knew because he knew their hearts. So you need to be plugged in. And if you're not wired properly, if you're all like in the haze, that's where these patterns come out. Yeah, that's my twin. I need to save them because we're going to be in union. You have to wish that union for yourself. Who, when, where, leave that. Drop it out. Manifest that for yourself because that is like ultimately your only desire. You have to say nothing else but that. You know how many times I was coaxed into something else? Almost believe it. And in the end, and where I am now, it's only one thing is the reality. nothing but Illumined Union, because first and foremost, I am an Illumined being already. I am the teacher of Illumined principles and Illumined Ascension, and as a human counterpart, I also get to experience that, and that's why I only choose that and nothing else, and nothing less. Thank you, my beloveds, for being here for another episode of the Urgent Mission Update. And what comes next, I don't know, but I truly still hope to get a little bit of that retreat, and I will do everything else on Patreon, still needing to finish that. Sorry for those of you who are waiting. There's been a delay with everything, even with my work. Thank you for your love and compassion. Thank you for your support. If you've ever come around on my webpage to check the courses or my products or whatever, let me know. And also, like I explained, there's an energy exchange button above, below. And I'll see you in the next urgent mission update when it's time. And until then, enjoy and love, wisdom, and power. Bye for now. Goodbye.
Welcome into my world, the world of the elven song, magical.